Welcome to the Anti-Architect Podcast. I am your host, Christian Giordano. As president and owner of the design firm Mancini Duffy, I am driven by a quest for learning and radically changing the industry. With this podcast, I'm hoping to improve the industry that I'm so passionate about by taking a critical look at how architects work through a variety of voices and shared experiences. Hello, Anti-Architect Podcast listeners. I'm excited to welcome Daniel Monteiro as my guest on the Anti-Architect Podcast. Danny is managing partner at Reedy Contracting Group, a full-service general contracting and construction management firm based in New York City and New Jersey, focused on commercial, interiors, and capital projects. Reedy Group, can I call it Reedy Group? Are you cool with that? All right. That's kind of how I know you guys. So. Reedy Group works with tenants and owners and developers across Class A and landmark buildings, and they have built an incredible reputation for pre-construction discipline, detailed execution, and long-term client relationships. What makes Danny's story so interesting to me is that he did not walk in the front door as the partner. He has been with the firm since its founding and has literally done every job: finance, estimating, superintendent, project manager, COO, and now managing partner. This 360-degree view of how a job gets won, staffed, delivered is really rare in our industry, and it shows how he leads. Reedy Group was named to the E&R Top 600 Contractors list. Some of their work you may know is Warner Brothers, Discovery, Global Headquarters, the National Urban League headquarters in Harlem, and the American Express Centurion Lounge, and many others. Danny, thank you so much for being my guest here on the Anti-Architect Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk to you about architects and kind of what we do well, what we don't do well, and especially how we integrate with general contractors. Mm-hmm. So if you had to pick one thing, what annoys you about architects?
Oh boy.
It doesn't have to be one thing.
So I think I'll probably preface the answer with, when we look at projects, there's three facets that I think are important from a very high level without getting into the minutia of construction and everything else. But naturally you have budget, you have schedule, and you have quality. I think to on the reverse side of it, I do think that on the contracting side, we don't necessarily always understand the level of work that gets put into it from the architect side. So when we're sitting there at a meeting saying, why isn't the CD set coming? Why isn't the DD set coming? It's very quick for like us on a project management side to say, you told us 8 weeks, it's 8 weeks. Why isn't it coming yet? And then when you start backtracking from there, it's client decisions, it's existing conditions, or whatever the case may be. So naturally, it's easy for us as a contractor to say, we're late. You don't have the drawings on time. How can I get to the bidding? How can I build and everything else? But then I think what annoys me a little bit about that is when you have a pre-con set or pre-con process and you start asking the architect side questions, you start drilling into elevations, or you start drilling into the details, or you take 3 months of questions and back and forth, and you're saying, hey, your drawings don't really say this. Instead of saying, oh, that makes sense, let me backtrack and understand why you're asking that. That step of going out to bid, that step of going out to the street and making sure that there's a set of drawings that is depicting what you're looking as an architect looking to design intent, is something that we're looking around the corner for, from the client's benefit and also obviously from the designer's benefit. And at times we're in meetings and we ask these questions, or we ask, hey, you should put this elevation in, or you should put this in, or we've talked about this door being relocated and it's affecting and impacting these 5 other trades. And then on the other side, we get the stare of just put the drawings out. Like, I don't understand what the issue is. I think that's a tough part. But again, I think at times it's very easy for us to say that from the contractor's benefit, to say that because we don't necessarily understand. There's a lot of people that are on the construction contracting side that don't necessarily understand the amount of work that it takes for you guys to go from a DD set or an SD set all the way to 100% CD and everything else.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would say that's one of the ones that, like, and I don't know if it's hitting me right now because of a job that I have going on. And you asked the question first thing that came to mind. But that's definitely one of the ones for sure.
And I can see that. I can see our resistance to that, right? Like a lot of times there is a process and we've decided in our own head that like, SD has this, DD has this, CDs has this, right? And the bid set is some variation of that, right? Mm-hmm. And we're then we might see it as, well, they don't really need that information, right? Or what are you talking about? It's in the DD set, right? But it's really a pretty picture, right? It's a colored elevation or something like that. I think we don't do a good job until the end, right? Until we're 100% buttoned up in terms of construction documents. I mean, that could be argued too, but let's say all things being equal, we put together a tight set of construction documents. Then we're going to say to you, this is ready for bid. The problem with that is that you guys need to start bidding it early. Right. And we don't either maybe have the information there. We just haven't had the time to draw all the information. There's a lot of that stuff there.
And I think it also depends on the kind of project. If it's your typical 40,000 square foot commercial fit out, it's less likely that that's even happening. Right. Because the reality of it is there's enough information and there's enough experience on both parts that you can bridge the gap that's not there with allowances or in the leveling sheets or that process.
Right.
And I also think as well, and this is something that's just, I think, happening globally in the industry, the amount of time that everyone's getting to actually execute from A to Z has been shortened, right? From your side of it, from SDs to CDs, that time has definitely shrunk. And then obviously from execution, that time has shrunk from punch list and move in and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's obviously something that us as contractors, we need to keep that in mind. The challenging jobs are like the restaurants of the world or the $500 to $1,000 square foot build outs that you're doing for hedge funds or for family practices or things of that nature. And where there's a tremendous amount of design that goes into it. And it's not just the architect side, or the architecture side, it's the design elements that are being put into it, the wow factors of the spaces.
Yep.
Those are the ones where I do think clients and maybe on the design side where they, somebody should say, I need more time, right? In order for us to be able to, because for us, we would rather, once we hit the job site running, we don't want to have design and shop drawing phase. Once you design a shop drawing phase, unless you know that going in, but if you're designing a shop drawing phase, you kill the momentum.
Yep.
You start getting pockets of gaps in the schedule, and you start getting pockets of work productivity happening. And then at the end, it's, hey, I got 4 weeks left to finish. I don't want a punch list. Then there's all of a sudden you're putting carpet down, then office fronts, then this and that. So that's the challenging part. But I think it's inherent, obviously, in the schedules that we're all kind of.
I say it. I say it all the time. Like when we start a project, we're already behind schedule. Like we get awarded the project, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, well we took too long to make this decision and to get everybody on board, but our end date hasn't changed, so now we have to compress it even more." And I remember doing schedules even 10 years ago where, let's say it was a typical corporate interior job. It'd be like 6 weeks schematic design, 8 weeks design development, and maybe I'd have 10 to 12 of construction documents. Now I'm writing schedules where it's like 2 weeks of schematic design. I'm like, how are we going to do this? Like by the time we measure the space, we get backgrounds to an engineer, we're done. Like we haven't actually done anything.
Yeah. And then we were just talking to a client on an RFP that came in where they wanted to be in by the end of the year. They're not getting the space though till July, and architect wasn't released yet. So then they said, how can we do it? So naturally for us, we're not going to say no, right? So then we start thinking, we know the architect that's on the project. So we had a conversation with them. We said, listen, how do you feel if we went out to the street with 50% CDs? There's still 50% of information. And then 50% is subjective, right? I mean, it really depends on whatever. It's literally whatever that Friday is, you're stopping and hitting print and sending out the drawings.
Yeah.
And I think where we try to bridge the gap is, and it does come down to relationships with the consultants and everything else, is you're literally looking around the corner for whatever that 50% is from a monetary perspective. Because by the time you get the drawings out, ideally you're out to the street, you're bidding, and you're having the numbers come back in. As long as you protect the client from a cost perspective, there's still a bit of time for you to figure out the rest of it, the rest of the details and everything else. But it's like you said, as soon as you get onto the project, oh, by the way, we're 6 weeks behind schedule. How do we make it up?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. That's great. Listen, we want speed, right? For an architect to make that fee work, we do need to work within the schedule that we've provided. And really, because then we're getting into areas of, well, now we're burning hours on time that we can't build, depending upon how the contract is set up. So we do want speed, but too fast is also a problem, right? And I'm not going to say there's not standardization as to what those deliverables are, because there technically is. If you go by AIA standards, so you know what's supposed to be in a schematic design set versus a DD set and so on. But nobody really pays attention to that anymore. Your schematic design is basically boiled down to a bunch of pretty pictures and, some random ideas about materials. That might be wood, that might be stone. And then now we're moving on to the next thing, right? It's crazy. Yeah.
And I think as well, just to that point about, you have a fee and you want it to be fast and because that's for all of us, right? Our time is our profit is based on how quick you can get a job in and out. Right. But then what happens is you have this schedule, you end up losing time in the middle of the schedule. Now you're crunching everything on the back end. Now there's quality control issues. And now what ends up happening is you have a 7-week punch list or an 8-week punch list. And we ask you, hey, can you come out 4 times to do a punch list? And that's where it starts to get frustrating from both perspectives, obviously.
I get it.
So that's the tough part. But yeah, I think if everybody understood from our perspective on what it actually entails for what it takes for a design team to put proper set of documents together, and then if the design team understood what it means to go out to the street and bid and why we ask for a lot of the information we ask for, I think if there's a good balance of information from both of that sides, I think it would help the conversation in a meeting of, hey, this is why I need this information. Because if I don't have this information, there's going to be 20 change orders on the back end of this. So
yeah, I agree. Clarifying why is important. Yeah, because if you're just hounding the architect, then they're like, oh, well, this guy is annoying me,
And we tell
hey, it's on the drawing.
And I tell my project management team all the time, explain why you need the drawings on this date. Explain why you need this pre-purchasing. Explain why we want the lighting controls designed for a certain point of time. Just to say it because you heard it in the last meeting, it doesn't necessarily help convey the message. Definitely doesn't help convey the reason why we actually need this. And I think if that conversation is happening from both sides, naturally it's the relationship thing as well. I think then people realize, okay, this makes sense. I'm going to push this forward before this other element, because if we don't get this, he explained to me the domino effect and the risk factor that comes with it. Right.
So switching it to, what do you think architects, what do you think annoys architects about most contractors?
I could sit here for hours on that one too. Not looking at the drawings. I think I play it back to my super days when I was on the job site looking at building projects, and it's being able to, as a good super and a good contractor, it's being able to put something 2D into real life form and understanding when you have 3 dissimilar materials that come together, how do you make that cross, and how do you envision that when you're still at laying out the job? And I think as well, not listening, just the same exact reverse. When an architect walks the job and says, hey, look out for this detail, look out for that detail, and a super or contractor says, yeah, of course, I got this. Fast forward 6 weeks, it's completely wrong. And the architect says, remember I told you that? I think that could be something that's probably frustrating.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see. So where do you think architects could actually add value for, contractors like yourself? And how do we help you?
I think just kind of playing on the line before what I was saying is trying to get as much detail as they can on the drawings. I also think what could help, and I typically will ask this a lot, especially on the higher end spaces that we build, is what matters the most to you and the client. And not that the whole space doesn't matter, but naturally budget is everything, unless it's a client that doesn't care, which is very rare, but
even the ones that don't care ultimately care.
Correct. And I think there's the wow factors, right? So like if an architect can say, hey, these are the areas that are really going to matter. These are the areas that every time I'm in a design meeting, the client always perks their ear up to or constantly drills into this. I think it'll help us focus a little bit more in those areas. Again, not to say that the rest of the space isn't as important, but like we just finished MLS's space, 2 floors at 2 Penn Plaza. And every time I walked a space, or one space I went to was a commissioner's area. Why? Because that's where he's going to be, right? Yeah. So I think as long as you kind of have it as a contractor, naturally, you're going to want to gravitate towards the areas that are like, this is what everyone is expecting and wants to see, the staircase or whatever the case may be. I think if that kind of communication's had during pre-con or at the very early on stages of the project, I think that always helps. And the other thing is the submittal stage always sucks, right? And even though all of us have the experience, it's like, I can't believe I'm being inundated with all these submittals, right? And I think as well, if there's that, if the design team can say, hey, I can't get this to you, but I can get it to you on Friday, and it's that level of communication that's happening, I think that would tremendously help. Yeah. Which does not to say it doesn't happen, but unfortunately sometimes it does.
Do you think architects have any true concept of what something costs, and how can you help us like learn about costs better? Because I feel like we quote costs and we get it wrong, 90% of the time. This carpet is $30 a square foot installed, and then it's, well, no, actually it's $80 when it's installed kind of thing. Yeah.
I think it's never bad to start the process early. And I think, and depends on the client reps and the owner's reps that are involved, but we always like to have our budgets in. When we submit our initial budget, we want to have conversations with the design team, architects, mechanical engineers, MEPS engineers, the client, obviously, because we want to go through those assumptions, and we want to go through, hey, you designed this millwork section. This is going to cost you $100,000. And then at that moment, you could say, well, I only budgeted 50, and then we can go through why it was double the price or whatever the case may be. I think that the earlier that the design team and the contractors can talk to each other about budgets, I think that'll help. I also think that, very similar to how we have it, we have a whole Rolodex and an index of where things are, $1 per square foot for sheetrock installation, for carpet installation. I think, if the architectural side, they had that in their mindset as well. I think that'll help. Doesn't have to be to the granular that we get into, but even just high level, like if you're doing a pre-built space, how much is this going to cost? If it's non-union or union, or if it's more of the custom space, this is what it's going to cost. Yep. But I think having that conversation earlier in the process definitely helps. So the last thing you want is, and we're going through this right now in a restaurant that we're building, client has X amount of $1 million to build the space. The Parisian designer thinks that, I guess they must have converted it from euros or whatever the case may be, thinks an additional $3 million to build it. And by the time you do your original budget, it's like, this is what it's going to cost. This is what your design is yielding, right? Give or take a percentage here or there for contingencies, but this is what your design is yielding. And now all of a sudden, the next 6 months, you're spending in value engineering. So I think,
and that's hard. That's a lot of money to value engineer. Yeah, it's a lot of money. That's the problem.
And then you sacrifice. Especially on a project like that, you're sacrificing the design potentially. You're sacrificing things that the client wanted. And there's been times where the design team says, you know what, I don't want my name on this anymore, because now you've completely diluted what they envisioned, what they had in mind.
Yeah, a lot of times on the design side, when something is so over budget, really the design is almost irrelevant at that point, because it's a lot of stuff. It's scope, right? It's the size of the space, or it's the, what you don't see, the mechanical systems, electrical systems, that kind of stuff, where you could take out all the pretty finishes that you want, but it's still not going to equal up to the full amount of the space. And then, so I was just thinking about, construction and budgets. And do you think architects could benefit from, like, in the educational world, of having to actually work in the field and work in construction?
I think every consultant that touches construction should be in the field for a little bit. I even equate this to working with your parents at their house or something, like, just changing a vanity or a sink, or putting a wood flooring in, or just anything, because construction is very antiquated, right? How we're building is not much different than how construction was built, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, whatever it is. You build a building, so you have to put the foundation in first before you do everything else. You build, a commercial interior space, you have to put studs up before you put outlets and plumbing, even though a lot of people have tried doing it the reverse. But I do think it's very helpful for somebody, and even not necessarily for an architect to say, all right, let me go be a superintendent or junior superintendent on a construction firm before I get into architecture, but more of taking advantage of the fact that you have a full-blown job site happening that may be 3 blocks from your office or downtown from uptown, whatever it is, and you've spent time designing it. Go see it.
Yeah.
Go see the process of it. Go, when you're there for layouts, ask the questions. Say, hey, how does that detail come together? And I think, if it's a smart individual, they're going to be able to use that information they've gained from the last 2 or 3 projects to be able to, quickly put together that when you design something on paper, maybe I can't execute this.
Yeah.
So I definitely think having that field experience is important for sure.
That's a really good point. Something I want to follow up with our teams on, like, how often are they actually asking questions when they're on there, rather than just sort of walking around and taking notes and comparing it to drawings and punch listing or whatever it is. But yeah, so I always did that, right? I grew up and my mom loved renovating our house, right? Like I tell her all the time, still to this point, she's a house flipper, except that she lives in the house while she's flipping it. I'm like, why don't you just go get an investment property and flip it, rather than redoing your own house all the time and then selling it and going to the next place? It's a terrible way of living. So growing up, we lived through construction all the time. That's kind of why I'm where I am, right?
Yeah.
And we're always redoing our kitchen, our floors, and my mom liked modern stuff too, which is kind of funny, right? Very out of the ordinary for kind of New Jersey, like ultra modern. And I used to love watching the contractors, and I asked them tons of questions, like, why? I was a kid, like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? What's that? Why did you do it this way and not that way? Right.
Yeah,
and a lot of them, there was one guy that was always there. It was like a one-man band, and he answered all the questions all the time. And, I know how to do a lot of that stuff. I'm not great at it. I think when I do home projects, they take me forever. I built something, underneath my deck and a shed and an area. It took me 3 summers, but I did it.
But you did it. That's the key thing.
My wife was like, you ever going to finish it? I'm like, yeah, I will. As a matter
That's
of
like my house. I get to a point where I'm at 95%, and I'm like, that last 5%, my wife's like, when are you going to, I'm just going to keep adding to the punch list. And I'm like, the fact that you even know what a punch list is drives me crazy.
Exactly.
But I say this a lot with some of our junior staff. And I did this when I was kind of coming through the ranks. If you finish a project and you stop before you start your next project, and you literally take your RFI list and you run down through your RFI list from the last project, I can almost guarantee you 80% of those RFIs are going to be the next project. Yeah. And I think that if someone just stops and realizes that and looks at, some of the stuff that they've learned from the last one, you start to quickly realize there's a trend, and you start to quickly realize that, sometimes, there is a copy paste that happens. Sometimes there's just an information gap that, again, a design team thinks it can be built and it can't be built. And I think that if the design team does that as well, between the contractor side, the design team, I think things will get flushed out quickly on the next project. But then it comes down to the reality of from a design perspective, you guys are designing one job, CAing that job, and then quickly going into the next job.
Totally.
And it's
if not simultaneously, a lot.
Inevitably, there's going to be copy and paste. I used to always joke, like, I can't remember how many times I built spaces where the outlet behind the microwave was missing, right? And on the plans, I mean, and it's like, guys, how can you not get this? Or the transfer ducts between topped walls and stuff like that. So naturally, it's a function of the time. You guys just don't have the time to really sit down and capture all that stuff because you're quickly trying to get drawings out. But I think from a contractor's benefit, the quicker that we can get out ahead of those issues, one, you're going to build a really good relationship with the consultants because you're looking around the corner for them. And 2, you could be saving the client a tremendous amount of money because now you're not putting the outlet behind the microwave after the sheetrock's done, the millwork's done, everything else, or, you're not cutting open ceilings to get transfer ducts in.
Yep.
And I'd like to think that for our team, that's how we need to separate ourselves from our peers is how do we get out ahead of those issues before they become big dollar issues? And again, the consultants, I think, would appreciate that once that's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sorry. So let's rewind a little bit. I'm curious about your origin story. Where'd you grow up? what'd your parents do? How'd you ultimately get into this industry?
Bounced around a little bit around New Jersey. Started in Jersey City. Then went from Jersey City to Sayreville to Marlboro in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back here is always fun.
Yeah.
My dad was a vice president of Prestige Painting. So he was in the industry for 20, 30 years. My mom works for Air France. So that was always nice to go back to Europe every once in a while when I was growing up. But I think from a very young age, and as you were mentioning about, renovations and stuff, like my dad was very, very hands-on. So at the age of 12, 13, I was chipping concrete and, doing stuff with him, very hands-on. And I remember, from a safety perspective, he would sit there in the bathroom soldering with no shoes on, no shirt on. And I'm like, that just does not look safe at all. And now, of course, I find myself doing the same thing with slippers on and stuff. But
Crocs, I do a lot of renovation in Crocs.
I have my Adidas sneakers that I've had for 10 years, and I have them on the speed intro where the back flap is just down. I just run into those and go do my renovations. But was always into Lego sets, and I would build the Lego sets, then take them all down and then build bigger ones. And so I really got into it. That's how my dad got me into the industry.
Nice. And so what was your first job coming out? Was it Reedy?
No, so it was actually JT Megan.
Okay.
Out of high school, my dad got me in touch with Eamon Brennan at the time. He was there, and this was the first intro I had to the Irish accent. But I remember sitting in an interview, right out of high school, and Eamon and I were talking for a good bit. My dad was there as well. I had no idea what the hell he was saying. I mean, all I heard was yeah. And I tell Eamon this story all the time. Walked out of there and I said to my dad, so what am I doing? He goes, I have no idea. Just show up Monday. Started off in the mailroom, kind of started putting some process there in the mailroom and all that good stuff. And then from there, went off to college, did engineering at Stevens. And then after freshman year, between freshman year, sophomore year, went back to Megan, did internship at 787th 7th Avenue BNP Paribas, where I was superseding drawings. I was filing things. I was just doing all the paperwork with Robert Bernier and Chris Weiss, who are probably the best people in this industry from the contracting side. And then I said, hey, I'm bored. I need a little bit more than this. This is, I'd like to think I could do a little bit more. And then he gave me the core bathrooms to do at the time. And quickly, I just took it on myself and kind of was managing the trades and everything else. And then from my sophomore year to senior year, they had me running in Jersey City. They had me doing work at HSBC. I was supposed to be doing just nights and weekends. Nights and weekends turned into during the day, nights, weekends. I remember going into school where I had BlackBerry, Nextel, my personal phone on my waist. So it was a tremendous amount of experience. It was tiring, but it was a tremendous amount of experience that I got. Then when I graduated college, I was doing the Microsoft stores with Pat.
Right.
So, Pat tricked me into the whole Microsoft thing. I remember coming out of college, I was down on a project, and I heard that Megan got the account. They were doing, all the stores, and everyone was traveling. And I was 21 at the time.
It always sounds so romantic. That's so great. I get to travel.
So crazy. Like, I would love to do that. And Pat, as wise as he is, he had nobody. Like, nobody wanted to travel. So as soon as he saw the excitement in my eyes, he goes, let me see what I can do. He's like, there's a long list, but let me see what I can do. And naive at 21, I'm like, oh, that's great, Pat, whatever you can do. And then within 2 weeks, I'm off to Seattle for 6 months. And then just kind of bounced around doing the first 6 stores, helped with the mock-up. Then I got to the point where I was like the quality control person going to solve problems. And I remember in Bellevue, Seattle was their flagship. They had to remove columns and get steel in and all that stuff. So I was part of the logistics and everything there. And then Pat went on his own and I joined him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and you guys have been
16 years
growing ever since. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Pat and Reedy Contracting Group. So walk me through what the firm looked like, in those early days. Did you go right with him when he started?
He started in February of 2010, and politically I couldn't start right away. I had to start a little later. So I started in July of 2010. So pretty much like right away.
Yeah.
The early on meetings that I would have with him would be on compound buckets in our office. I think we had an 800 square foot office space, conference room, 2 desks, At the time, we had a receptionist. Then by the time I started, I used to have to share a desk with Pat. And for anybody who knows Pat, he does not talk slow or light. Like he's just a very loud person on the phone. So that was very distracting. But we had 4 people in the firm when we started, and then now we have about 70. So we've grown substantially, obviously. I remember doing work at Saks Fifth Avenue at night, like just small little projects that's like, you look back at it now and you're like grateful that they give you the opportunity, but you go back and you're like, Jesus, those jobs were not fun. And then we got our first, multi-million-dollar job with Mason Capital. It was a hedge fund. We put an internal staircase in, and we did a beautiful office space. It was at the time probably like $300-$400 a square foot build out cost. But the only way that we were able to get that was I was the super and Pat was the PM. So I was right into being a super there. I estimated it. Pat and I estimated the job, released the job, and then I supered it. He PM'd it while we had a couple other supers running around doing some other smaller stuff. And then after that kind of helped us bridge into the bigger projects. And then we did Soros, which was I think it was like a $60 or $70 million project that we did. George Soros' office space, 6 floors. Mm-hmm. We did the art volume there for James Terrell. So that was a pretty cool art piece that we did there, which is like a completely butcher what he does, but his art style. But we put this egg looking thing in the space and then used light refractions. We did custom GFRG, curved Corian. It was pretty cool.
That's great.
But even that, like, schedule was everything. They had to move out of 888 7th Avenue to come into there. So as you can imagine, everybody was like, we got to get this built quick. But yeah, it kind of went from there. Then we did Discovery headquarters, which is, double the size of what Soros was. And since then, we're just, getting into almost every sector now at this stage. Just opened up the office here in New Jersey. Looking to continue there.
Where's the office in Jersey?
In Red Bank.
Nice.
Yeah. So not too far from you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then at what point do you go from sort of being in the field and doing all these things to now the management side and ultimately, kind of running the company?
I think it's a function of, I've always treated the company like it was mine. I never once said like, this is Pat's company. This was, something that I helped start with him. And naturally, like, the company started because of his relationships and because of how great he is in the industry and just who Pat Reedy is. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Lorraine Reedy, his wife, helped on the accounting side, the financial side, also grow the company. But I think just having that collective, that personal pride of like, if I'm going to be part of something, I want to be part of it like it's mine. I don't know. I look back now and I'm like, I don't know how this all transitioned, right? I mean, I think whenever there was a tough job, I just nominated myself to say, all right, I'll go down there and figure it out and make sure it gets turned over so that the name doesn't look bad, right? Like, we've had some pretty challenging projects and I found myself just planting myself there. And, it's not scalable either, which is why we've brought in a lot of good team members and everything else. But, I think just never say, not saying no, I think was a big thing. Like whenever we had to deal with contracts, I'm like, Pat, I'll take care of it. Let me look at it. Which now I'm pretty well adversed now with contracts. I think also estimating, I never said no. Like, I wanted to understand, I wanted to learn it. So I think a lot of that just helped put me into this position now. And I think it's also I think it's great. Like, as I was mentioning before about like starting on site from a consultant's perspective or a project manager's perspective, just getting to the basics of how construction's built. So now it's not only seeing the basics of how construction's built, but seeing the basics of business development or the accounting side, the estimating side, being well-rounded has allowed me to, I think, be good at what I do.
Definitely.
It's been a fun journey.
It's cool. That's great. So I'd love to get into some of the projects if we can pull them up, because you guys do beautiful work. So which one is this?
This is Amex.
American the Amex. Yes. So this is the Centurion Lounge, correct?
Yep.
Which you guys had me there. I had drinks there with you guys.
Nice.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the money shot there.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this project.
So this one was for obviously Amex. They have I don't know if they're still doing it, but everyone knows about the Centurion Lounges in the airports. This is one of the ones they wanted to do in an office space, an office environment.
Okay.
So this lives on the 55th floor of One Vanderbilt. The project started probably 4 months, 5 months after tenants started moving in. We had to run a gas riser from the sub-cellar up to the 56th floor. So we ended up doing the entire plumbing package 3 months before construction actually started.
Oh, wow.
On the floor below, the 54th floor, Megan was actually building a very, very high-end, I think it was a hedge fund space, whatever it was.
Okay.
We had 186 core drills and 5 grease traps to install. So we were like, guys, there's no way we're doing this after these ceilings are done.
Yeah.
So we worked with the design team to strategize the filing, worked with the building and the design team to do the layouts and everything else. So we did all of the plumbing roughing before we was, again, 3-4 months before we even started on the project.
Okay.
And
Are
then
you friendly with JT Megan still?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We knew the super, we knew the PM.
Yeah.
So we literally told them, you can't put this duct up. And they were like, all right, hurry up and get this in. So it was a good relationship, and it helped out a lot. Another fun fact is that building, from one corner of the building to the other on that floor anyways, was off about 2 inches. So we had some pretty large format stone. We had wood transitions, carpet transitions. So we had to work with the design team to lose the difference in height within the portals from like dining room space to dining room space. So when you look at that picture, from like that portal to the other portal, you actually lose about a ½ inch in height in order for us to be able to get it cheated from one corner of the building to the other.
Okay.
Which you would never know.
Yeah, you'd never know. Wow.
A beautiful space.
It's an awesome space, and the view is unbelievable.
Yeah. Building it was weird. You get the clouds up there at times.
And then if you can go to the next one.
So this was Discovery. So this was the food network on the first and cellar floors. So Discovery was 13 floors of construction where we took down the penthouse, put a new penthouse back up for their amenity space. The food network took over the first floor and the cellar. This shot here on the right-hand side, you'll see like it's an angled storefront. So that's actually acoustic bulletproof glass that we put in behind the main storefront glass. That was 6 kitchen suites that we built. So full black iron, full precipitators, and all that good stuff. And then we built on the lower floor, we did all their studio floors, which had to be, from their flooring perspective, had to be 0-0 tolerance, which means that the floor is not just flat, but it's dead level. Because when they have the rolling cameras, they can't have anything tilting and everything else. So that was a fun project.
So are the broadcast floors different from the kitchen floors here?
Yeah. So Food Network was cellar and just the cellar first floor. Broadcasting floors are up higher.
Okay.
Then they had, from an MEPS standpoint, which I always get excited about, and others are like, yeah, that sounds cool. We did a full UPS data center there. Like we did chillers, generator, all that stuff. So it was a nice project.
Wow, cool. I don't know if I think we have one more.
The next one. This was Soros.
Okay.
This
is kind of the one that started it all. Yeah.
That was again, that was a fun one. But yeah,
that's great. So let's talk a little bit about the construction market in general with New York and New Jersey. Like, where do you see things right now? Because I get like mixed signals with stuff, right? Like we're extremely busy on the architecture side, and we've remained busy for quite a while. But it's in a lot of different sectors, right? It's aviation, it's industrial, it's a lot of restaurants and hospitality. There's office in there, it's sprinkled in, but it's not like it used to be before COVID, right? Where the 40,000 square foot office spaces were just kind of cranking through New York City, and they were easy, and they just kind of came once a week kind of thing. Where do you see the state of the market right now?
Yeah, I think we're exactly the same. We're pretty busy right now in different sectors, like the hospitality sector. We do have a good amount of commercial going on as well. The volume is there. I think it's the price points and the schedule that are tough. And then you'll have some clients that will, your budget, you'll get going on it, and then it's like, all right, let's hold. We need to get approval on it, and then they may come around in 3-4 months, and you're behind schedule already. But it's busy. I mean, we're constantly pricing, we're constantly churning out RFPs. I think unfortunately, like for some of our competitors, which I think you're seeing that as well, is that they are taking these jobs for very, very cheap, which then at some stage from a business perspective, you have to say, do we go after it? Do we not? Because then what ends up happening is you're going after subcontractors that may not be the right fit for the project,
Sure.
But you need to get them because they make they hit the right price point. And then you're just, you're miserably living for the next 16 weeks. So yeah, the market's busy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Even like in New Jersey, there's a lot of stuff going on. In Connecticut, there's a lot of stuff going on where we also are targeting some projects. And we're at that sweet size too. Like, we're doing, last year we did about 120, 130 million. This year, we're looking to get there, maybe break it a little bit. Our goal getting to like the 150, 200 mark.
Wow.
You don't need many projects to get there, right? And I think, if you get a 40,000 square foot build out or a 2-floor build out, that's where we want to be at. And that's the sweet spots that's the projects we've been getting.
Sure.
I think the ones that are like the 6-floor build outs, the 7-floor build outs, unless it's a client we have a relationship with that, trusts us and wants to bring a partner in, we'll let the other guys go after those. But yeah, it's busy. It's busy enough. Anyway.
But you're at a good size, kind of like similar to us, right? Like we're big where we can do a big project and we can do smaller projects too, right? And they don't kill us and break the bank, right? I think some of our competitors, probably, I'm sure a lot of your competitors are so enormous, right? That they've got to just kind of feed the machine constantly.
Yeah. And when those enormous GCs are, from our perspective, like when they take the smaller jobs, you're like, there's no way they're paying attention to that. Right. And I think the nice thing about being at the sizes that we are is you still have ownership involvement. Like I'm sure you're still very involved on a lot of your projects, similar to I walk all of our jobs. I'm a lot of our client meetings, our OAC meetings. And I think once you get past like that 150, 200 mark, it's hard to do that. And it's hard to maintain that client relationship. What we've also done is we've opened up last couple of years, a special projects division that handles a lot of like the day two, the maintenance work, just because we want to make sure that those clients get the same level of support that like they would if we're building out their full office space.
Wow, that's great.
Which has been helping with us just kind of maintaining relationships as well. But yeah, it's been good.
And then what about New Jersey? How are you seeing the market so far in New Jersey and the Red Bank area?
New Jersey's tough. I think the reason why we opened up an office is to plant the flag here and to let clients know like we are taking this seriously. I think New Jersey's always been that market. If you're a New York City contractor, you're probably not going to get much work here unless the client's bringing you out, which a lot of the work that we've done in Jersey was that. I think now that we have an office space here and we have some personnel that's based out of Jersey, it's helping us get a little bit more traction. But it's like anything else. I mean, like, I think the hospitality world is there. I think if even development stuff that we're looking at, I mean, naturally loving residential side of things, like developments don't scare me. And even some of the higher end residential doesn't scare me to get involved with. But yeah, the market's definitely there. Again, for our size, the market's there. If we're a behemoth contractor, I don't think Jersey market is feeding them right now.
Makes sense. Yeah. But in this particular area in Monmouth County with Netflix coming, right. And there is this Netflix effect, whether, it's not made up, obviously. Right. I mean, the thing's under construction, there are stage walls going up right now. So, but I think the hospitality side is really lacking in the area. So I think there's going to be, we're already seeing it on our end, the amount of restaurants that we're doing. A lot of developers want to do hotels around here. There really aren't many good hotels. They're okay. Even when the Netflix folks come down, it's kind of like, where are they staying? Some of them stay in Asbury Park, right? Which is, it's not not far from here, but it's not right across the street. It's a half hour away. It kind of doesn't make sense, right? So we're definitely lacking on those things here. So I think it's a smart move, and I think you're going to see it kind of continuing to grow.
We're already having some conversations with people about some of the hotels that are coming up, and I think having the experience from the New York market to be able to come into here, because now New Jersey, they want to. A lot of the clients and developers want to build that higher end space, and not to say that there's not Jersey contractors that can do it, but I like to think that when you're building in New York, there's a level of sophistication that if you could bring here to New Jersey,
definitely
will help. So we're excited about what it can take.
Definitely. So I want to talk a little bit about technology and AI. It's one of my favorite topics right now. I'm pretty obsessed with it. How do you see technology, or specifically AI, changing the way you build and manage projects in the future?
Oh man, this can go one way or another. And I know you and I have talked about this, years in the past, about how we project building a test conference room and projecting up lines and everything else.
Yeah.
But I think from an admin perspective, AI is already, doing a lot of it. We're already looking into schedule building with AI. We're looking into using Holo Builder into transferring information from an invoicing perspective, also to scheduling perspective. We have a couple folks in our office that are literally that's all they're doing. And I do think that I'm hoping that it's not going to take over people's roles per se, but I'm hoping that it's going to speed up the process.
Sure.
But I definitely see that end of it happening. We're seeing, layouts being done with robots, with the little robot machines.
Are you actually doing that?
So with Tishman is using it. Actually, we just did we're doing a project for them right now where they use to do the layouts, and we're checking it now to see how accurate it is.
Okay.
Curtis Partitions actually does a lot of that kind of stuff.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, AJ's really into that.
Okay, I'll have to talk to him about that.
Yeah, actually, I've been meaning to set something up with him to kind of start bridging and understanding what he's using to see if we can speed up some of the stuff that we're looking at.
Okay.
But I mean, there's always that old school mentality though in construction of that's never going to be accurate. It's pretty good.
I'm sure it is.
And then we're also like everyone's using the scanning and everything else, but we're using that a lot more, especially for like our staircases that we're building. Instead of going to one vendor that's doing it all, we're actually using vendors to come in, do the scanning, do the shop drawing process for us, so that we could still control, the 3 or 4 different vendors coming together. MLS's staircase was built that way. We've done Vista. We've done a couple staircases like that where we brought this vendor in. They've done the scan. They've done the 3D isometric shops and literally have done all the hits for us and everything else. We've released 16-week lead time glass off of a model.
Oh wow. Okay.
All came in. It worked.
Yeah. So it's like us. You're getting to the point of trusting it, right? I think at the beginning, a lot of the scanning, we would go and we would scan, and then we would go back with the tape measure and make sure, like, is this correct?
There's still, and it's a saying Pat and I say all the time. It's trust but verify, right?
Yeah.
There's still. So when we released that glass in that example, there were still areas where we came in as the process was happening. We're checking it to make sure that nothing changed. So for that glass, once it came in, we had templates still made. We put the templates on and we made sure, like on the horizontal side, not the vertical side, to make sure that nothing's changed from the radius and curves and everything else. Very similar to like when you're releasing office fronts off of just lines, right? Do it all the time, but there's steps in the process, like when the framing goes up, come back and check, because at that stage you can still fix things before 8 weeks or 10 weeks comes around the corner.
Yep.
But yeah, we've been kind of doing that for the last 2 or 3 years now at this stage, doing the scanning and releasing off of that. The BIM modeling we try to implement onto the projects or even that world, the 3D world. That's challenging because you never have time to do it. And then all it takes is your column lines to be off by an inch, and it just throws everything off.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
But yeah, I definitely see that happening. Not in the near future. I don't see like robots coming in and building out the spaces.
that was my next question.
There's that movie though with Jason Statham. I haven't watched it yet, but I think it came out last year, where like from like 7 to 5, the workers are working, but then as soon as they clock out, the robots clock in.
Yeah,
and they work from like 5:01 to 6 in the morning. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll happen at some stage.
Yeah. I was building something out in my basement and doing some cabinetry, and it was IKEA cabinets, right? I was putting them in this little area here. And then I was, I got a little refrigerator, we put that in, and then I was trimming all of the, the filler panels and stuff like that. And in order to prop that up, I had to like build a little, false wall behind it, the whole thing. And my thought was, and I had to like wedge my body into this thing. I was like, how the hell is a robot going to do this one day? Like, I just don't know. I guess in theory, I see it, that it could happen. But I don't know. I just don't see the agileness, that the finesse of a carpenter.
Did you see on, I got to send it to you on social media. There's a robot that's walking around. I think it's in UK, and she was like, it was a female robot. She was going down the subways, going into the Apple store. I don't know. That thing looked real. So it's. I'm sure the technology will get there, but for now, I think the immediate implementation that we're seeing is more of the admin side of putting the schedules together, like analyzing the information and quickly and then giving it up to like upper management or to people on site that are building. Like imagine the spec books, right? Like you're not going to sit there and read a 150-page spec book. You're going to put that into ChatGPT or Claude and say, give me all the information I need.
Exactly.
So that's what we're seeing it for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. So as we wrap up, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to tell the audience?
No, I'm super excited to be on this, I will say.
No, I'm excited to have you here.
I've listened to a lot of them on your side, so it's been fun. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Danny, thank you so much for being my guest on the Anti-Architect podcast. It's been great, obviously, to get to know you over the years. And thank you for sharing. Like, I think a lot of what you said was extremely valuable. And I know that I'm going to go back and take notes and kind of share it with our staff for sure.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So to see and read more about Danny and Reedy Group, you can go to reedygroup.com and then Danny's LinkedIn for sure. So thank you again.
Cool.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.